Just in today is the Milwaukee 15-piece Dozer Carbide teeth set. It includes this really nice looking case. You get a total of 15 pieces, which includes 2 arbors, 2 pilot bits, so 11 hole cutting blades. Let's take the cardboard off and see what's inside. With the cardboard off, first thing we notice is the Milwaukee branding on the plastic case. It's kind of cool that it has 2 hinge pins, metal running through the back of it, a little kickstand there. We swivel around to the front, and there's a carrying strap and a nice clamp. Now notice that when we open, there's foam at the top. The hinge can actually lay flat, which is nice because sometimes you have those hinges that stop right here and you want to push and they tend to flip the whole case over. Well, that's not the case with this one. What do we got in here? Here are our 11-piece saws. There's a storage compartment. Inside are the arbors, the bits, and even an Allen key so that you can remove the bits. The saws are stacked up inside of each other to save some space. Really cool thing about this kit is, if you remember when you were a little kid and you put those rectangular pegs in those rectangular holes, it's finally going to pay off because look, rectangular peg goes into rectangular hole. You can rearrange the pins, you can move them out of the way, you can sort of just repurpose the look of this. But the way it comes configured, this foam padding already has holes that made up with the positions that they're in so that when it's closed and things get jostled around, nothing here gets displaced. It all stays in one place. And of course, the storage compartment, things can jostle around in there, but nothing's going to fall out. Another nice thing about the case is you can fold it on itself to get some additional height. Now let's take a look at some of the blades that are included. First thing you notice, it looks like it's Swiss cheese, and 2 reasons for this. One, when you go to line up your hole, you have all these openings to make sure that the drill bit is going into the right place and that your cut is going to be true. Second of all, when you finish drilling out that hole, you'll have a plug in here that you want to get out, and this lets you stick in a screwdriver in any one of these openings to get that plug out. You may notice that these have a seam on them, and that's not unusual. Basically, it's a piece of machine metal for the base, and then this is probably on a roll, and they just cut it, wrap it around, weld it in place, and then close up the seam. And the issue with these seams sometimes is that the gap between the teeth won't always match because, let's pull another one so we can compare. Basically, these are all the same teeth, right? And it's just different diameters. So let's check this seam. So if you look at this seam here, you notice that it's not a half tooth, it's not a quarter tooth, it's like 1/8 of a tooth that was left over on the seam. And, you know, they didn't finish it off. They could have cut it and just ground the metal there so that at least it had a nice round finish like there. But instead, we have this tooth. And you may say, well, gee, that's an anomaly. Well, let's grab another one. Oh, look, another anomaly. There's another one where, again, because these are the same teeth. If you look at these side by side, this is the same metal. It's just, again, you know, goes on a different diameter base. So wherever the teeth happen to line up on the seam, that's just where they welded together. So will it affect the cut? I'm hoping not. Alignment-wise, it may be just a little further out than the other teeth. So, but it doesn't appear to be a lot. Let's pull another one out. If we look at this one, this is the smallest bit that comes in the kit. On this one, there's the seam, and you see there's just a little spike there. So most of these cutting blades are going to have some kind of misalignment because it probably only lines up perfectly maybe on one or two sizes. And again, does it really affect the cut or how the blade works? We're going to find out because we're going to cut some wood and plastic and see how these blades do. Now you may have noticed I haven't mentioned anything about the warranty or the instruction sheet, and that's because none are enclosed. You'd think at least there'd be some instructions because you have this arbor and you have this cutting bit, and somehow they have to mate together, and there are parts here that turn, and it can be confusing. I've seen lots of people complaining about how frustrating this can be and how sometimes these two pieces fuse together. So I'm going to go through each of the parts to see if I can explain everything to you. This is a quick connect. It'll go on an impact tool or a regular drill driver. There's a nut here that backs off, giving you some space to move this nut here, which is a wheel that is got some knurling on it. It also had these two alignment pins. And then in front of that is a thread, and there's a drill bit. This is the drill bit that will guide this cutting blade into the material. And how do you switch this drill bit? Well, there's an opening. I think you can see it right in here. And there's an Allen key that's included with the kit. You turn the Allen key to remove the bit and to reattach the kit, and you tighten it down. Then you pick your cutting blade, and there's a thread on this, and you see there are 4 holes. You're only going to need 2 of those holes to align. So first thing you're going to do is back off this nut to the bottom of travel, push the round ring with the 2 pins on it to the back, put on your cutting tool, spin it on to the thread. Either way, you can turn the arbor or the hole saw. And what you're going to do is you're going to align now with those holes. So if you look here, you see it's aligned, right? So now we have all this space back here, and there's also an O-ring in the middle. So what you're going to do now is turn this back nut until it meets the front nut. And now the question is, how tight do you make it? Well, think about it. There are 2 pins that are holding this cutting tool against this arbor, right? And nothing else is going to move. So snug is plenty. If you put it on too tight, it could be stuck for a really long time. So we're just going to do snug because that's all you need. Making this very tight isn't going to make this any more secure because right now there's no play in it. So now we're able to stick this into our drill driver or our quick connect on an impact tool. So we've got our cutting bit on. We've got a piece of hickory and a piece of plastic. We're going to try the plastic first, see how it does. Now, what a first-time user might not know is that the drill bit itself just barely exceeds the tip of the cutting blade, so it can slide off if you're not careful. Best way is to use both hands on the tool to hold it in place, and then let the tool do the cutting. If you start pushing down on the tool, you're just going to get it to bind and heat up, and that's not what you really want here. You want the tool to do all the cutting for you. Holds pretty round on that side. Let's take a look on the other side. You turn it over, not bad. It's fairly round, fairly clean. Pretty good. Now the problem usually is that you have a plug and you need to get that out. And hopefully that's where all these holes will come in, because it'll allow you to get in there and push the plug out. This is a good time to mention that you should remove this from the driver so that you don't inadvertently press the trigger and hurt yourself. And depending on the size of the plug that you have in there, you may want to remove the arbor from the cutting tool. If you loosen the nut, take it all the way to the back. Now you can unthread the bit. We still have our plug, but now I also have access to the back. So I can get a hammer and pound that out. One plug out. Now let's try the hickory. Just to recap, we turn this nut all the way back. We bring this ring all the way down to the bottom. Drop in the bit. Turn until you just get to the point where the pins can go in, which is almost the full end of the thread on the bit. Get the pins in there. Now that nut, you ride it forward and just get it snug. There's no need to really force it with another tool. And then mount it on your favorite driving device. And there's a little bit of a tip, so I'm going to go slow initially to get it going, and then we'll bring up the speed. If we look up at the top, pretty nice hole. We have a plug in here. That's going to be kind of hot, so we'll take a look at that in a second. But let's unclamp our work and see what the underside looks like. And didn't really break out much. There's just a little bit there, but there's a little bit of tearing there, but mostly it's a pretty decent hole. And this is hickory, which is why you saw the smoke, and it generated a lot of heat. If we come to our bit, you can see the metal's worn. At least we've taken off some of the coating. And now let's take this off the tool and see how hard it is to get that plug out. I'm going to try initially just to use the screwdriver, and that seems to be wedged in there pretty darn good. So I'm going to take the bit out. So again, uncurl the nut, pull the pin out, and then this should unscrew from your bit. Now, of course, if you use a wrench or something to apply it, it may not come out, but I told you not to do that. So now, I'm going to stick my screwdriver in here, get a hammer, and pound on it, see if it comes out. And there's our plug. And if you need wheels for a roller skate, that's one way of making them. We're going to look at the teeth, and as you see, all the points are still there. They're not rounded. We've lost a fair amount of the coating, and where the seam is, and I think there was a little piece of metal there. That's now gone. But all the other teeth are fine. It's still round. And even though it had a long going in that hickory, because that's a really nice hard wood, it seems like it's still good for many uses. So now you know how to put these on, take these off, and they will cut through multi-materials. So I kind of like this. At the end of the day, what do I think about this kit? Well, first off, I like the box. Flexible storage, it can be reconfigured, and it actually does a really good job of keeping everything in place when the box gets jostled around. You get 15 pieces, 2 of which are an arbor, 2 of which are the pilot bits, which leaves you with 11 hole saws. The hole saws have access slots, which make clean out much easier. The quick change arbor system actually works. Things that I didn't like so much: the pilot bits seem a little bit short, just a few millimeters more would have been nice. The teeth don't always line up with the seams on the hole saws, and there are no instructions, which can be really frustrating if this is the first time you've ever used an arbor, or if this is an arbor that's different from the ones you've used before. And it's a shame that Milwaukee didn't take the time to include instructions on how to use the arbor with the hole saws. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.